The champagne glass in Beek Duhayan's hand was in danger of shattering. He stood in the shadows of the massive ballroom at the Pier Hotel in New York City, his dark eyes fixed on one person, Amara, his wife. She stood near the balcony doors, looking like a ghost in a sea of fake smiles and expensive diamonds. She wore a simple black dress that hugged her curves, but she looked smaller than he remembered. Frail. Her skin, usually glowing, looked dull under the chandelier lights. It had been 2 years since the accident that broke them. 2 years of silence in their penthouse. 2 years of him sleeping in the guest room because he thought giving her space was the noble thing to do. He thought he was honoring her grief by leaving her alone. He was an idiot. "She looks lonely," a voice sneered beside him. Duhayan didn't turn. He knew that voice. Julian Vance, a snake in a 3-piece suit. Julian had been trying to buy Duhayan's shipping routes for months, and now he was staring at Amara with a hunger that made Duhayan's blood run cold. "Watch your mouth," Duhayan said, his voice low and dangerous. Julian laughed, sipping his drink. "I'm just saying, Beek, you ignore a flower like that for too long, someone else is going to pick it. She deserves to be seen, to be held." Duhayan's jaw clenched so hard his teeth hurt. He wanted to punch Julian right there, to splatter his blood on the pristine white tablecloths, but he couldn't. Not here. Not in front of the city's elite. He had to maintain control. He was the head of the Beek clan. He didn't lose his temper. He watched as Julian set his glass down and adjusted his tie. "Excuse me," Julian said with a smirk. "I think I'm going to go cheer her up." Duhayan took a step forward, but his feet felt like they were stuck in concrete. "Don't do it," he told himself. "She hates you. If you go over there, you'll just make her cry again." He watched Julian walk across the dance floor, sliding through the crowd like a predator stalking a wounded deer. Amara didn't see him coming. She was staring out at the dark city, lost in her own pain. Duhayan's heart hammered against his ribs. He saw Julian reach her. He saw Julian place a hand on her bare shoulder. Amara flinched. That small movement, that fear, snapped something inside Duhayan. The glass in his hand finally broke, slicing into his palm. Blood dripped onto the marble floor, but he didn't feel it. All he felt was a rage so hot it burned his throat. "Pause. Before we see if Duhayan burns this entire hotel to the ground, I need to ask you something important. Where are you listening from right now? Is it late at night? Are you alone? Let me know in the comments, and while you're there, rate this story so far from 1 to 10. Now look at that subscribe button. It's right there. If you don't click it, you're basically letting Julian get away with touching another man's wife. Do you really want to leave Amara trapped with a man like that? She's scared, she's alone, and she needs Duhayan to wake up. Don't let her story end in heartbreak. Hit subscribe for timeless K-love and help us save this marriage before it's too late." Duhayan didn't wipe the blood from his hand. He just started walking. The crowd parted for him. They could feel the energy coming off him, like heat radiating from a furnace. He didn't look at anyone. His eyes were locked on Julian's hand, still resting on Amara's shoulder. Amara pulled away gently, turning to face Julian. She looked tired. Her eyes were puffy, like she had been crying in the bathroom before coming out. "Julian," she said, her voice soft and shaky. "Please, I'm not in the mood to talk." "Nonsense," Julian said, his voice loud enough for the people nearby to hear. The music seemed to dip, or maybe Duhayan's hearing was just tunneling. Julian smiled, a wide, fake grin that didn't reach his eyes. "You've been mourning long enough, my dear. Life is for the living. You need someone who appreciates you, someone who doesn't treat you like a piece of furniture." Amara took a step back, bumping into the glass door. "Stop it. My husband is here." "Is he?" Julian laughed, gesturing vaguely around the room without looking. "I don't see a husband. I see a coward who hides in the corner while his beautiful wife withers away. He doesn't want you, Amara. Everyone knows it. He's ashamed of you." The words hit Amara like a slap. She gasped, her hand flying to her chest. Tears welled up in her eyes again. "That's not true," she whispered, but she didn't sound convinced. "It is true," Julian pressed, stepping closer, invading her space. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. The room went silent. People stopped dancing. Heads turned. The whispers started, buzzing like angry bees. "Marry me," Julian said, popping the box open to reveal a massive diamond ring. It was gaudy, tasteless. "Leave him. Let me show you what a real man does." Amara stared at the ring, frozen in shock. She looked around the room, her eyes wide and terrified. She was looking for him. She was looking for Duhayan, and he was there. "Get your hands off my wife." The voice was low, but it carried across the silent ballroom like a thunderclap. Julian froze. He turned slowly to find Duhayan standing 3 feet away. Duhayan wasn't shouting. He wasn't waving his arms. He was perfectly, terrifyingly still. The blood from his hand dripped onto the floor. Drip, drip. Drip, drip. Julian's smile faltered, but he tried to hold his ground. Ah, the ghost returns. I was just telling Amara that she deserves better than. Du-hyun moved. It was a blur. 1 second he was standing still, the next his hand, the uninjured one, was wrapped around Julian's throat. He slammed Julian backward, pinning him against the glass balcony doors. The glass rattled dangerously. Julian dropped the ring box. It clattered on the floor and spun away. You speak to her again, Du-hyun whispered, leaning in close so only Julian could hear the death in his voice, and I will cut out your tongue. Julian gagged, clawing at Du-hyun's hand. His face turned red, then purple. Du-hyun, Amara screamed. The sound of her voice pierced through the red haze in his mind. He didn't let go, but he looked at her. She was trembling, tears streaming down her face. She looked terrified of him. Stop, she begged. Please, everyone is watching. Du-hyun looked at Julian, who was gasping for air, eyes bulging. He felt a sick satisfaction in watching the light dim in the other man's eyes, but Amara was crying. He had sworn he would never make her cry again, and here he was doing exactly that. He shoved Julian away. Julian collapsed to the floor, coughing and wheezing, clutching his throat. Du-hyun turned to the crowd. His cold gaze swept over the shocked faces of the city's elite. The show is over, he said calmly. Then he turned to Amara. He didn't ask. He didn't apologize. He reached out and grabbed her hand with his bloody one. He didn't care about the mess. He pulled her close, wrapping his arm around her waist, pulling her body flush against his. She was stiff, resistant, but he held her tight. We are leaving, he said. Du-hyun, your hand, she whispered, staring at the blood smearing onto her black dress. Walk, he commanded. He marched her out of the ballroom. He could feel the eyes burning into his back, but he didn't care. He had made a mistake for 2 years. He had thought distance was respect. He had thought silence was strength. He was done with silence. The valet brought his car around, a black SUV that looked more like a tank. Du-hyun opened the door for her, and for a second she hesitated. She looked at him, really looked at him, searching his face. Get in, he said, softer this time. She climbed in. He slammed the door and walked around to the driver's side. As he drove away from the hotel, the silence in the car was heavy, suffocating. But it was different from the silence in their penthouse. This wasn't empty. Charged, it was dangerous. Amara stared out the window, watching the city lights blur by. She was hugging herself, trying to make herself small. Du-hyun hated it. Why didn't you stop him? He asked, his voice rough. Amara didn't look at him. Stop who, Julian? He proposed to you, in public. He insulted me. He insulted us. Us. Amara let out a bitter, dry laugh. She finally turned to look at him. There is no us, Du-hyun. There hasn't been an us since the baby died. The words hit him harder than a bullet. The car swerved slightly before he corrected it. The baby, their son. The memory was a black hole that swallowed everything. That was when he had shut down. That was when he had moved into the guest room, thinking he couldn't bear to see her pain, thinking his own grief was a poison that would hurt her more. I am still your husband, he said tightly. Are you? Amara asked. Her voice was gaining strength now, fueled by anger. Because for 2 years, you've been a roommate. A ghost, you don't talk to me, you don't touch me, you barely look at me. Julian was a pig, yes, but he was right about one thing, you act like you're ashamed of me. Ashamed? Du-hyun slammed on the brakes. The car screeched to a halt at a red light. He turned to her, his eyes blazing. You think I am ashamed? What else am I supposed to think? Amara yelled, tears spilling over again. You won't even sleep in the same bed as me. You treat me like I'm broken glass that you're afraid to cut yourself on. I'm not glass, Du-hyun. I am a woman, I am your wife, and I have been lonely for 2 damn years. Her words hung in the air, raw and honest. Du-hyun stared at her. He saw the fire in her eyes, the pain, the desperation. She wasn't frail. She was furious, and she was right. He had been a coward. He had been so afraid of hurting her that he had let her wither away in isolation. He had let another man think he could just walk in and take her. The light turned green. Du-hyun didn't move. I thought, he started, his voice cracking. He cleared his throat. I thought you needed space. I thought my grief, my anger, would be too much for you. I didn't need space, Amara whispered. I needed you. Du-hyun looked at his hand on the steering wheel. The blood had dried, dark and sticky. I wanted to kill him, he admitted quietly. When he touched you, when he looked at you. I wanted to tear his head off. That doesn't fix anything, Amara said, wiping her face. Violence doesn't fix us. No, Du-hyun agreed. He put the car in gear and started driving again, but he didn't head toward their penthouse. Amara noticed the turn. Where are you going? Home is the other way. We are not going home, Du-hyun said. If we go home, I will go to the guest room and you will go to the master bedroom and we will be ghosts again. I am done being a ghost. Then where are we going? Amara asked, a hint of panic in her voice. My private estate upstate, Du-Hyun said. Just us, no staff, no phones, no Julian. You can't just kidnap me, Amara said. You are my wife, Du-Hyun said, his voice dropping an octave. I am taking you to our house, and we are going to stay there until we remember how to be married. Amara fell silent. She didn't argue. Maybe she was too tired. Maybe, just maybe, she didn't want to go back to the empty penthouse either. The drive took 2 hours. By the time they pulled up the long, winding driveway to the secluded estate, it was past midnight. The house was dark, looming against the night sky. It was surrounded by thick forest, isolated, private. Du-Hyun parked the car and got out. He came around to her side and opened the door. Amara stepped out, shivering in the cool night air. She wrapped her arms around herself. It's cold, she murmured. Du-Hyun took off his suit jacket and draped it over her shoulders. It was heavy and warm, smelling of his expensive cologne and the faint metallic scent of blood. He didn't step back this time. He stood close to her. Let's go inside, he said. He led her into the house. He flipped a switch and the entryway flooded with warm light. The house was beautiful, modern but cozy, with wood beams and a massive stone fireplace. But the air was stale. No one had been here in a long time. I'm tired, Amara said, pulling his jacket tighter around her. Which room is mine? Du-Hyun locked the front door. The sound of the deadbolt sliding into place echoed in the quiet house. He turned to face her. There is only one bed made up, he lied. He hadn't called ahead. None of the beds were made up fresh, but he would deal with that. Amara looked at him warily. Du-Hyun, I am not sleeping on the couch, he said firmly. And I am not letting you sleep alone, not tonight. Why? Amara asked, her voice trembling. Why now? Why after 2 years? Du-Hyun walked over to her. He reached out and touched her cheek. His thumb brushed away a dried tear. His skin was rough against hers. Because I almost lost you tonight, he said. Because seeing that man look at you, it woke me up. I have been sleeping for 2 years, Amara. I have been in a nightmare, but I am awake now. He leaned in, his face inches from hers. He could see the gold flecks in her dark eyes. He could smell her perfume, vanilla and jasmine, the scent that used to drive him crazy. I am going to claim you, Amara, he whispered. I am going to remind you who you belong to. I am going to make you forget his name. I am going to make you forget the last 2 years. Amara's breath hitched. She didn't pull away. Her eyes searched his, looking for the truth. Can you? She whispered. Can you really erase the pain? I can try, Du-Hyun said. He bent down and swept her up into his arms. She gasped, instinctively wrapping her arms around his neck. He carried her up the stairs, his footsteps heavy and purposeful. He kicked open the door to the master bedroom. He set her down on the bed. The moonlight streamed in through the window, illuminating the room in shades of blue and silver. Amara sat on the edge of the mattress, looking up at him. She looked beautiful, and she looked like she was waiting. Du-Hyun started to undo his tie. He pulled it off and threw it on the floor. And he started on the buttons of his shirt. Du-Hyun, Amara said softly. What? He asked, pausing. Your hand, it's still bleeding. He looked down at his palm. The cut was deep, an angry red line across his skin. It doesn't matter, he said. It does, she said. She stood up and walked to the adjoining bathroom. She came back a moment later with a first aid kit. She sat back down on the bed and patted the spot next to her. Sit. Du-Hyun hesitated, then sat. He held out his hand. Amara took it gently. She cleaned the wound with an antiseptic wipe. He didn't flinch, even though it stung. He just watched her. He watched the way her brow furrowed in concentration. He watched her gentle fingers moving over his skin. Why do you care? He asked quietly. I hurt you. You're hurting now, she said simply. She wrapped a bandage around his hand, securing it tight. There. She kept holding his hand even after she was done. She looked down at his bandaged palm, then up at his face. You're right, she said. I felt invisible, like I didn't exist to you anymore. You are everything to me, Du-Hyun said. The words felt rusty, unused, but true. I was just lost. Don't get lost again, she whispered. Never, he vowed. He reached out with his good hand and cupped the back of her neck. He pulled her forward. Their lips met. It wasn't a gentle kiss. It was hungry, desperate. It tasted of tears and 2 years of starvation. Amara made a small sound in her throat and leaned into him, her hands clutching his shirt. Du-Hyun groaned and pushed her back onto the bed, following her down. He pinned her to the mattress, his weight pressing her into the soft duvet. He kissed her jaw, her neck, the hollow of her throat. Mine, he growled against her skin. You are mine, Amara, say it. She gasped as his hand moved to the zipper of her dress. Yours, she breathed. I'm yours. The sound of the zipper sliding down was the loudest thing in the room. Du-Hyun woke up first. The sun was streaming through the windows, bright and unforgiving. He blinked, adjusting to the light. His arm was numb. He looked down. Amara was asleep on his chest, her dark curls spread out like a halo. One of her legs was thrown over his, tangling them together. For a moment, panic flared in his chest, the old instinct to pull away, to hide, to retreat to his corner. But then he felt the warmth of her skin. He heard the steady rhythm of her breathing. And he remembered. He remembered the way she had cried out his name last night. He remembered the way she had clung to him. He remembered the promise he had made. I am awake now. He carefully shifted, trying not to wake her, but she stirred. Her eyelashes fluttered and she opened her eyes. She looked confused for a second, then her gaze focused on his face. "Morning," he rasped. His voice was deeper than usual. "Morning," she whispered. She didn't move away. She stayed right where she was, resting her chin on his chest. "How are you?" he asked. "Sore," she admitted with a small smile. Du-hyun smirked. "Good," she swatted his arm lightly. "Be nice." "I am done being nice," he said, his face growing serious. "Nice is what got us into this mess. Nice is letting you sleep alone. Nice is letting men like Julian talk to you." Amara's smile faded at the mention of Julian. "What's going to happen with Julian, with the business?" "I will handle Julian," Du-hyun said darkly. "He crossed a line. There are consequences for that." "Du-hyun, promise me something," Amara said, sitting up. The sheet fell away, revealing her bare skin. Du-hyun's eyes dipped, but he forced them back to her face. "What?" "Don't go to prison," she said. "I just got you back. I don't want to visit you through glass." Du-hyun reached up and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "I won't go to prison. I'm a businessman, Amara. I don't get my hands dirty unless I have to." "You got them dirty last night," she pointed out, looking at his bandaged hand. "That was personal," he said. He sat up, the sheet pooling at his waist. "I have to make a few calls. Stay here, rest." "I'm coming with you," Amara said. "No," Du-hyun said. "This part. This is the ugly part. You don't need to see it." "I'm your wife," she said stubbornly. "If you're going to declare war on Julian Vance, I want to know about it." "I'm not a flower, Du-hyun, remember." He looked at her, really looked at her. She was strong, stronger than he had given her credit for. She had survived the loss of their child. She had survived his neglect. "Fine," he said. "Get dressed." They went down to the kitchen. Du-hyun made coffee while Amara sat at the island. He handed her a mug and then pulled out his phone. He dialed a number. "It's me," he said when the line connected. "I want Vance's accounts frozen. I want his shipments flagged at the port and find out who invited him to the gala." He listened for a moment. "Yes, and send a team to my penthouse. Pack a bag for my wife. We are staying at the estate for a while." He hung up and looked at Amara. "It started," he said. "What has?" "The war," Du-hyun said. "Julian won't take this lying down. He has friends, powerful friends." "So do you," Amara said. "Yes," Du-hyun agreed. "But my friends are not polite." Just then his phone buzzed again. A text message. He looked at it and his eyes narrowed. "What is it?" Amara asked. "It's a picture," Du-hyun said. He turned the phone so she could see. It was a photo of their penthouse door in the city. Someone had spray-painted a word across the expensive wood in bright red paint. "Yours," it was a question, a taunt. Amara gasped. "He was at our apartment." "He or one of his dogs," Du-hyun said. He gripped the phone tight. "He is trying to scare you." "It's working," Amara whispered. "Good," Du-hyun said. "Fear keeps you sharp." He walked around the counter and stood behind her, wrapping his arms around her, burying his face in her neck. "But you do not need to be afraid of him, because I am the monster in this story, Amara, not him." He kissed her neck, a possessive, hard kiss. "Now," he said, pulling back. "Let's go teach him a lesson." The graveled driveway of the secluded estate crunched under heavy tires. It wasn't just one car. It was 5. Black SUVs with tinted windows rolled in like a funeral procession, surrounding the house. Amara stood by the kitchen window, her hands gripping the edge of the marble counter. Her heart hammered against her ribs. "Du-hyun," she said, her voice tight. "Who are they?" Du-hyun didn't look out the window. He didn't need to. He was already pulling a black Kevlar vest over his crisp white shirt. He fastened the Velcro straps with a sharp R-E-ip sound that made Amara flinch. "My men," he said calmly. "The perimeter is being secured. No one gets in or out without my say-so." He walked over to the kitchen table where a metal case lay open. Inside were 2 handguns, matte black and terrifying. He checked the clip of one, sliding it in with a metallic click. Amara watched him. This wasn't the man who had ignored her for 2 years. This wasn't the grieving father who hid in the guest room. This was a soldier, a general. And for the first time, she realized just how deep his world went. She knew he was powerful. She knew his shipping business had complicated ties, but seeing him arm himself like he was going to war, that was different. "Is it that bad?" she asked. "Julian, he's just a businessman, right?" Du-hyun looked up, his eyes cold and hard. Julian Vance is a broker. He sells weapons to people who kill children. He smuggles drugs into neighborhoods like the one you grew up in. Is not a businessman, Amara. He is a parasite, and he just tried to steal my wife. He tucked the gun into a holster at his hip and walked over to her. The vest made him look bigger, broader, dangerous. He knows we are here, Du Hyan said. The paint on the door was just the first warning. He wants to rattle me. He wants me to make a mistake. And will you? Amara asked, looking up at him. No, Du Hyan said, because I have something he doesn't have. What? Something to lose. He brushed his knuckles against her cheek. Stay inside. Stay away from the windows. I need to brief the team. He turned and walked out the back door. Amara watched him go. Outside, men in dark suits were already fanning out into the woods. Some carried rifles. They looked professional, scary. Amara felt a chill run down her spine. She wasn't just a wife anymore. She was a target. Pause, this is getting intense. Du Hyan just turned his house into a fortress, and Amara is realizing she's married to a man who owns bulletproof vests. But here is the real question. If you were Amara, would you hide in the bedroom like he told you to? Or would you demand to know exactly what is going on? Let me know in the comments. Would you be the ride or die or the stay safe type? And listen, if you are enjoying this dark, gritty ride, you need to smash that subscribe button for timeless K-Love. If you don't, you might miss the moment Amara decides whether to pick up a gun or run away. Do you really want to be left in the dark? Subscribe now. Join the family. Amara didn't stay in the kitchen. She couldn't. The silence of the house felt heavy, suffocating. She walked into the living room, pacing back and forth on the expensive rug. She thought about Julian, the way he had touched her, the cold, slimy feeling of his hand on her skin. He had seemed so charming at first, months ago when they met at a charity event. He had listened to her when Du Hyan was silent. He had complimented her when Du Hyan wouldn't even look at her. I was so stupid, she thought. I let a snake into the garden because I was lonely. The back door opened and Du Hyan walked back in. He was followed by a tall, broad-shouldered man with a scar running through his left eyebrow. Amara recognized him. Kim, Du Hyan's head of security. He had been with the family for years, usually a silent shadow in the background. Mrs. Beek, Kim nodded respectfully, but his face was grim. Tell her, Du Hyan said, leaning against the wall, crossing his arms. Kim hesitated, then looked at Amara. We intercepted a call 10 minutes ago. Julian has put a bounty out. Amara felt the blood drain from her face. A bounty on who? On both of you, Kim said. $5 million, dead or alive. Amara grabbed the back of the sofa to steady herself. $5 million. He is desperate, Du Hyan said, his voice dripping with contempt. He knows he can't beat me in business, so he tries to remove me from the board. And he included you because he knows it will make me sloppy. He thinks I will panic. He's right, Amara whispered. We should panic. People are coming to kill us. Let them come, Du Hyan growled. They will die in the woods. Is that your plan? Amara snapped, her fear turning into anger. We just sit here and wait for waves of hitmen to attack us, like some bad movie. Du Hyan looked at her, surprised by her tone. We are safe here. Kim has the perimeter locked down. For how long? Amara challenged. Until they send a helicopter, until they burn the forest down. You said you wanted to claim me, Du Hyan. You said you wanted to fix this. Getting us killed isn't fixing it. Du Hyan pushed off the wall and walked toward her. He stopped inches away, his dark eyes searching hers. Then what do you suggest, wife? We don't wait, Amara said, her voice trembling but firm. We hit him first. You said he has business partners. You said he has dirty money. Go after that. Make him hurt where he cares. Du Hyan stared at her for a long moment. Then a slow, dark smile spread across his face. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a predator who just realized his mate had claws too. You are vicious, he murmured, sounding proud. I'm tired of crying, Amara said, and I'm tired of being scared. Du Hyan turned to Kim. Get the car ready, the armored one. Kim blinked. Sir, we are leaving the estate. We are going to the docks, Du Hyan said. Julian has a shipment coming in tonight, electronics, supposedly, but we know it's not electronics. Guns, Kim guessed. Heroin, Du Hyan corrected. If we take that shipment, he loses his buyers, he loses his credibility. He will be finished. It's a trap, Kim warned. He will expect you to go for his throat. He expects me to come alone, Du Hyan said. He looked at Amara. But I am not going alone. Amara's eyes went wide. You want me to come? No, Du Hyan said immediately. I want you to stay here where it is safe. Too bad, Amara said, crossing her arms. I'm coming. Amara, it will be dangerous. There will be shooting. You have a bulletproof car, she pointed out, and you have an army. And if I stay here, I will just go crazy wondering if you are dead. I am going. Du Hyan looked at Kim, who shrugged helplessly. Du Hyun sighed, running a hand through his hair. Fine, but you stay in the car, you do not open the door, you do not look out the window, you stay down. Deal, Amara lied. The drive to the city took an hour. They didn't take the highway. They took back roads, winding through the trees, the convoy moving fast and tight. Amara sat in the back of the lead SUV next to Du Hyun. He held her hand the entire time. His grip was tight, bordering on painful, but she didn't complain. She needed the anchor. She looked at his profile. He was staring straight ahead, his jaw set. He looked focused. Lethal. She remembered the nights he used to come home late, smelling of smoke and whiskey, refusing to tell her where he had been. She used to think he was cheating. Now she knew. He was doing this. He was managing a kingdom built on violence. Du Hyun, she whispered. Does it ever end? She asked. The fighting? No, he said honestly. There is always someone who wants what you have. Peace is just the time between wars. That sounds exhausting. It is, he admitted. He squeezed her hand. That is why I tried to keep you out of it. I wanted you to have a soft life, a clean life. I don't want a soft life if it means being without you, she said. Du Hyun looked at her then. The hard lines of his face softened. He lifted her hand and kissed her knuckles. I love you, Amara. It was the first time he had said it in 2 years. Tears pricked her eyes. I love you too, even when you're being an idiot. He chuckled, a low rumble in his chest. I will try to be less of an idiot. Sir, Kim's voice crackled over the radio from the front seat. We are 5 minutes out. The scouts report activity at the warehouse. 3 trucks, lots of guards. Do they see us? Du Hyun asked, pressing a button on the door to speak. Not yet, we are coming in dark. Du Hyun turned to Amara. Put this on. He handed her a vest. It was heavy and stiff. She pulled it over her head, feeling ridiculous and terrified at the same time. He helped her tighten the straps. Stay in the car, he repeated. I mean it, Amara. I know, she said. The convoy slowed down. They were in the industrial district now. Old brick factories, rusted fences, potholes the size of swimming pools. It was dark, the streetlights broken or flickering. The SUVs killed their headlights. They rolled forward in the gloom like sharks in deep water. Du Hyun pulled his gun. He racked the slide. The sound was loud in the quiet cabin. Go, he commanded. The SUVs accelerated all at once. Tires screeched. Engines roared. They smashed through the chain-link gate of the shipyard, metal flying everywhere. Amara screamed as the car bucked and swerved. Stay down. Du Hyun shouted, pushing her head down toward her knees. Outside, hell broke loose. Gunfire erupted instantly. Pop, 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 pop. It sounded like firecrackers, but louder, angrier. Bullets pinged off the armored side of the SUV. It sounded like hail on a tin roof. The car skidded to a halt. Du Hyun threw the door open. Cover me, he yelled into his radio. He jumped out. The door slammed shut, leaving Amara alone in the dark, leather-smelling interior. She huddled on the floorboards, her hands over her ears. She could hear shouting, screaming, the distinct boom of shotguns, the rattle of automatic fire. It was chaos. I should have stayed home, she thought. I should have stayed in the kitchen. But then she heard a voice, not Du Hyun's, a voice over the radio that Du Hyun had left on the seat. Target is in the lead vehicle, the voice hissed. It wasn't Kim, it was a stranger's voice. Someone had hacked their frequency. Flush her out, burn it. Amara froze. Burn it, she looked up. Through the tinted window, she saw a man running toward the SUV. He wasn't holding a gun. He was holding a bottle with a rag stuffed in it, a Molotov cocktail. Panic, cold and sharp, pierced through her. If she stayed in the car, she would cook. She didn't think. She didn't weigh the options. She moved. She scrambled across the seat and grabbed the door handle. She shoved it open just as the man reared back to throw the bottle. The heavy armored door swung out and hit the man square in the chest with a sickening thud. He flew backward, the bottle slipping from his hand. It shattered on the pavement, flames erupting in a whoosh of orange and blue. But the fire was 5 feet away from the car, not inside it. Amara tumbled out onto the asphalt, coughing in the sudden smoke. Amara! Du Hyun was there in a second. He grabbed her arm, hauling her up. His face was a mask of pure terror and rage. He fired 3 shots over her shoulder, dropping a man who was aiming at them. I told you to stay in the car, he roared, dragging her behind a stack of shipping crates. They were going to burn it, she screamed back, pointing at the fire. Someone hacked your radio, they knew I was inside. Du Hyun looked at the burning puddle of gasoline, then back at her. His eyes widened. A trap within a trap, he realized. They didn't want the drugs, they wanted you. Bullets chewed up the wood of the crate above their heads. Splinters rained down on them. We have to move, Du Hyun said. Kim, suppression fire now. The sound of heavy machine gun fire erupted from the other SUVs. Du Hyun's men were unleashing hell. The incoming fire slowed down. Run, Du Hyan commanded. He grabbed her hand and they sprinted. They ran toward the warehouse, away from the burning car. They ducked through a side door, bursting into the cavernous space. It was quieter in here, but not safe. The warehouse was filled with crates. Shadows stretched long and spooky. Upstairs, Du Hyan whispered, pointing to a metal catwalk. We can get to the roof. My chopper is 5 minutes out. You have a chopper, Amara panted, her chest heaving. I always have an exit, he said. They climbed the metal stairs, their footsteps clanging loudly. Amara's legs burned. She wasn't used to this. She did yoga, not combat sprinting. They reached the catwalk. Below them, the battle raged outside. But inside, it was eerily still. Du Hyan, a voice echoed from the shadows of the catwalk. They stopped. Julian Vance stepped out from behind a steel pillar. He was holding a gun, a silver revolver that looked too shiny, too clean. He wasn't wearing a vest. He was wearing a tuxedo like he was still at the gala. You are persistent, Julian said, smiling. And you brought the wife. How romantic. Du Hyan stepped in front of Amara, shielding her with his body. Put the gun down, Julian. It's over. My men are wiping yours out. Are they? Julian laughed. Or are they busy dying? You see, Beak, you made a mistake. You thought this was a gang war. It's not. It's a hostile takeover. Julian raised the gun, aiming it at Du Hyan's chest. Move aside, Amara, Julian said. I don't want to damage the merchandise. You're coming with me. Go to hell, Amara spat, peeking out from behind Du Hyan's shoulder. Have it your way, Julian sighed. He cocked the hammer. Du Hyan didn't flinch. You shoot me, you die. Kim is already inside. Kim is dead, Julian lied. Or maybe he wasn't lying. Du Hyan couldn't check. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Amara looked around. They were high up, 30 feet to the concrete floor. There was nowhere to run. She looked at Du Hyan's hand. It was inching toward his holster. But Julian had the drop on him. If Du Hyan moved, Julian would fire. Amara needed a distraction. Julian, she shouted suddenly, stepping out from behind Du Hyan. Amara, no. Du Hyan hissed. You want me? She yelled, walking toward Julian. Her hands were up. Fine, take me, just let him go. Julian blinked, surprised. His gun wavered slightly, shifting from Du Hyan to Amara. Smart girl, you finally realized who the winner is. I did, Amara said. She took another step. She was 10 feet away now. You're the winner, Julian. You beat him. She saw the ego flare in his eyes. He lowered the gun just an inch. He was gloating. Come here, he beckoned with his free hand. Amara walked forward. She locked eyes with him. She forced a smile. And then when she was 2 feet away, she lunged. She didn't go for the gun. She went for his face. She raked her nails across his eyes, screaming like a banshee. Arg, you bitch! Julian shrieked, stumbling back, clutching his face. The gun went off boom, but the shot went wild, hitting the ceiling. Du Hyan was moving before the echo faded. He tackled Julian. They slammed into the railing. The metal groaned. Du Hyan punched Julian in the face. Crack! Julian's nose broke. Blood sprayed. You touch my wife! Du Hyan roared, landing another blow. You look at my wife! Julian was flailing, trying to bring the gun up. He slammed the barrel into Du Hyan's ribs. Du Hyan grunted but didn't let go. He grabbed Julian's wrist and twisted. Snap! Julian screamed, dropping the gun. It fell through the grate of the catwalk, clattering to the floor far below. Du Hyan grabbed Julian by the lapels of his expensive tuxedo. He hauled him up, pressing him back over the railing. Julian's feet dangled off the ground. He was teetering on the edge of the drop. Do it! Julian wheezed, blood bubbling on his lips. Kill me, the Russians. They will burn your city. They will. Let them come, Du Hyan snarled. He prepared to shove Julian over the edge. Du Hyan, wait! Amara screamed. Du Hyan froze. He looked back at her. She was shaking, her hair wild, her dress torn. Don't, she said. We need him. He tried to kill you, Du Hyan said, his voice shaking with adrenaline. He knows who the partners are, Amara said, her breath hitching. He said the Russians. If you kill him, we lose the lead, we lose the war. Du Hyan looked at Julian, who was grinning through the blood, a rictus of madness. She's right, Beak, Julian gargled. I'm your only ticket out of this. Du Hyan's grip tightened. He wanted to do it. Every cell in his body screamed to drop this man into the darkness. But Amara was right. He was a businessman first, a killer second. He hauled Julian back onto the catwalk and threw him down on the metal grate. You talk, Du Hyan said, pulling a zip tie from his tactical vest. He flipped Julian onto his stomach and bound his hands. You tell me everything, or I will let my wife have another go at you. Julian groaned into the metal. You're making a mistake. The only mistake, Du Hyan said, standing up and walking to Amara, was letting you live this long. He grabbed Amara and pulled her into a bone-crushing hug. He buried his face in her hair. He was shaking. You are crazy, he whispered into her ear. You attacked a man with a gun. I learned from the best, she mumbled into his chest. Never do that again, he ordered, pulling back to look at her. My heart, it almost stopped. Then keep me safe, she said. I will, he promised. The sound of a helicopter thumping grew loud overhead. A spotlight beamed down through the skylights, blinding them. Is that us? Amara asked, shielding her eyes. Du-hyun looked up. He squinted. Yes, that's Kim. The side door of the warehouse burst open again. Kim and 3 other guards ran in, guns raised. They saw Du-hyun and Amara on the catwalk and lowered their weapons. Clear, Kim shouted. Sir, the area is secure. The shipment is ours. Du-hyun looked down at the trussed-up Julian. Bag him, he shouted down, and bring him to the estate. We have a long night ahead of us. Back at the estate, the mood was different. It wasn't fearful anymore. It was grim, determined. Julian was locked in the basement wine cellar. Du-hyun had posted 2 guards at the door. Upstairs, Amara was in the bathroom, washing the soot and grease off her face. She looked at herself in the mirror. There was a scratch on her cheek. Her eyes looked older, harder. Du-hyun walked in. He had showered in the guest bath. He was wearing gray sweatpants and a black t-shirt. His hair was damp. He didn't say anything. He just came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. They looked at their reflection together, the mob boss and his wife. You saved my life, he said quietly. We're even, she said. You saved mine. The Russians, Du-hyun mused. That complicates things. Julian was just the middleman. If the Bratva is involved, this goes deep. We can handle it, Amara said. She surprised herself with how much she believed it. We. Du-hyun raised an eyebrow. We, she confirmed. She turned in his arms. I'm not going anywhere, Du-hyun. I'm not going back to being invisible. If we are fighting the Russians, then we are fighting the Russians. Du-hyun searched her face. You should be terrified. I am, she admitted. But I'm also awake. For the first time in 2 years, I feel awake. Du-hyun nodded slowly. Good, because I need you awake. He leaned down and kissed her. It was slow, tender, a promise. Come to bed, he said. What about Julian? He can wait until morning. He isn't going anywhere. They walked into the bedroom. Du-hyun locked the door. He checked the window. Then he climbed into bed next to her. He pulled her close, his arm heavy over her waist. Amara rested her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. It was steady, strong. Du-hyun? Yeah. We're going to win, right? Du-hyun kissed the top of her head. We already won, Amara. We found each other again. The rest is just business. Outside, the wind howled through the trees. In the basement, a rival waited for judgment. But in the master bedroom, for the first time in a long time, there was peace. But peace, as Du-hyun had said, was just the time between wars. And tomorrow, the war would start for real. The basement of the estate smelled like damp earth and old wine. It was cold down there, a sharp contrast to the warm, sun-filled bedroom upstairs where Du-hyun had left Amara sleeping. He stood in the center of the room, his sleeves rolled up to his elbows. He wasn't wearing a suit. He was wearing a black t-shirt that showed the muscles in his arms, tense and ready. In the chair in front of him sat Julian Vance. Julian looked bad. His nose was taped up, his lip was split, and his tuxedo shirt was stained with dried blood. He was zip-tied to a heavy wooden chair that was bolted to the floor. Water, Julian croaked. His voice was dry, cracking like dead leaves. Du-hyun picked up a bottle of water from a small table. He unscrewed the cap. He didn't hand it to Julian. He poured it slowly onto the concrete floor. You talk first, Du-hyun said. Then you drink. Julian licked his cracked lips, watching the water splash and disappear into the drain. You're a bastard, Beak. I am a husband, Du-hyun corrected. A husband whose wife you tried to kidnap. A husband whose home you tried to burn. You have lost the right to call me names. Du-hyun pulled up a metal stool and sat down so he was eye level with Julian. The Russians, Du-hyun said. Names, I want names. Julian laughed. It was a wet, gurgling sound. You think knowing their names will save you. They aren't like the local gangs, Du-hyun. They don't care about your shipping routes. They don't care about money. They want the port. Why? Because they have cargo that needs to move, Julian whispered, leaning forward as much as the ties allowed. Live cargo. Du-hyun felt a chill go through him that had nothing to do with the cold basement. Live cargo, human trafficking. That was the one line Du-hyun never crossed. He moved weapons, he moved cash, he moved stolen cars, but he never moved people. You sold my port to slavers, Du-hyun asked, his voice deadly quiet. I sold them access, Julian corrected, for a very high price. And now they are here to collect, and since you are the one standing in the way, they have to kill me, Du-hyun finished. Bingo, Julian smirked. And the pretty wife, she's a loose end. The Bratva doesn't like loose ends. Du-hyun stood up. The rage was back, hot and blinding. He raised his hand, making a fist. He was going to break Julian's jaw. He was going to silence that arrogant voice forever. Du-hyun! The voice came from the stairs, soft, firm. Du Hyun froze. He didn't hit Julian. He turned around. Amara was standing at the bottom of the stairs. She was wearing one of his white dress shirts, which hung down to her knees, and a pair of leggings she must have found in her bag. Her hair was tied up in a messy bun. She looked small in the large, shadowy room, but she didn't look scared. She was looking right at Julian. Stop right there. Before Amara steps further into this dungeon, I need to ask you a serious question. If you found your partner in a basement, about to beat a man for answers, would you stop them? Or would you hand them a pair of pliers and say, "Make him talk"? Rate Amara's bravery from 1 to 10 in the comments. Most people would have run back upstairs. And listen, if you haven't subscribed to Timeless Caleb yet, what are you doing? Du Hyun is facing off against Russian slavers, Amara is entering her villain era, and you are missing out if you don't hit that button. Don't leave this couple to fight alone. Subscribe now. Go back upstairs, Du Hyun said. His voice was rough. He didn't want her to see this. He didn't want her to see the blood on Julian's shirt. He didn't want her to see the monster he had to be to keep her safe. No, Amara said. She walked closer. She crossed her arms, hugging herself against the cold, but she didn't stop until she was standing next to Du Hyun. She looked at Julian. She looked at his bruised face, his split lip. He said they deal in people, Amara said. She had heard. Yes, Du Hyun admitted. That is why he has to die. Julian's eyes went wide. He looked at Amara, pleading. Amara, tell him he can't just kill me. I'm a citizen, I have rights. Amara stared at him. Her face was blank, cold. It was a look Du Hyun had never seen on her before. It was the look of someone who had been pushed too far. You tried to sell me out to them, Amara said quietly. You told them where I was. You were going to let them kill me. It was business, Julian cried. It wasn't personal. It felt personal when you held a gun to my husband's head, Amara said. She turned to Du Hyun. Don't kill him. Julian let out a breath of relief. Thank God, see Beak, she has a conscience. Don't kill him, Amara repeated, ignoring Julian. Not yet, we need him. Need him for what? Du Hyun asked, surprised. He is the middleman, Amara said. Her mind was working fast. Du Hyun could see the gears turning. She wasn't just a grieving mother anymore, she was a survivor. The Russians don't know us, they know him. If we kill him, they will just come in blind, shooting everything. But if we use him how? Du Hyun asked. Make him set a meeting, Amara said. The room went silent. All they could hear was the drip, drip, drip of a leaky pipe in the corner. Julian laughed nervously. You're crazy. You think I'm going to set up the Bratva? They will skin me alive. And what do you think I will do to you? Du Hyun asked, leaning in close. You think the Bratva is scary? Julian, you are in my house, you are tied to my chair, and you touched my wife. He grabbed Julian's broken finger, the one he had snapped at the warehouse, and squeezed. Julian screamed. It was a high, thin sound that echoed off the stone walls. Okay, Julian sobbed. I'll do it, I'll call them. Du Hyun let go. He looked at Amara. There was a mixture of pride and worry in his eyes. This is dangerous, he said to her. If we lure them out, we have to fight them. We were going to have to fight them anyway, Amara pointed out. This way we choose the ground, we choose the time. Du Hyun nodded slowly. She was right. It was a bold plan, a reckless plan, but it was better than waiting to be hunted. Kim, Du Hyun shouted. The door at the top of the stairs opened and Kim hurried down. Sir. Get him a phone, Du Hyun said, pointing at Julian. A burner, he's going to make a call. An hour later, they were in the kitchen. The sun was fully up now, bathing the room in cheerful yellow light that felt completely wrong for the conversation they were having. Du Hyun sat at the head of the table. Amara sat to his right. A map of the local area was spread out between them. The meet is set, Du Hyun said. Tonight, midnight, at the old quarry 5 miles north of here. Did he sound convincing? Amara asked. She was holding a mug of coffee with both hands, trying to warm up. The chill of the basement still clung to her. He sounded terrified, Du Hyun said, which is exactly how he should sound. He told them he has us trapped, that he needs them to come and finish the job because my security is too tight. And they bought it. They are arrogant, Du Hyun said. They think I am just a local thug. They don't respect me. That is their mistake. He traced a line on the map with his finger. The quarry is a bowl, he explained. One way in, one way out. If we get on the ridges, we have the high ground. We can trap them inside. Ambush, Amara said. Yes. Du Hyun looked at her. Amara, you cannot be there. Du Hyun. No, he said, slamming his hand on the table. It wasn't angry, but it was final. The warehouse was an accident. I couldn't stop you then, but this is a planned kill zone. There will be grenades, snipers. It is a war zone. You are staying here. Amara looked at him. She saw the fear in his eyes. He wasn't trying to control her. He was terrified of losing her. Okay, she said softly. Du Hyun blinked. Okay, I'll stay, she said. I'm not a soldier, Du-hyun, I know that. I got lucky with Julian. If I go to a quarry, I'll just be a distraction. You'll be worrying about me instead of watching your back. Du-hyun let out a long breath, his shoulders sagging with relief. He reached out and took her hand. Thank you. But, she added, squeezing his hand, you have to promise me something. Anything. You come back, she said. You don't play the hero, you don't sacrifice yourself, you kill them and you come back home to me, because if you die, Du-hyun, I will never forgive you. I promise, he said. I have too much to live for now. The day passed in a blur of activity. The estate transformed from a home into a military base. More men arrived, Du-hyun's most loyal soldiers. They brought crates of ammunition, heavy vests, night vision goggles. They moved with silent efficiency, nodding to Amara when they saw her but keeping their distance. Amara spent the afternoon in the library. She tried to read, but the words swam on the page. She kept looking out the window, watching Du-hyun. He was outside, directing his men. He looked in his element. He was calm, authoritative. He checked weapons. He drew diagrams in the dirt. He clapped men on the shoulder. He was a leader. Amara realized she didn't know this man. For 2 years, she had lived with a ghost who slept in the guest room. She knew he was rich. She knew he was powerful. But she hadn't understood what that meant. He wasn't just a businessman. He was a warlord. And strangely, it didn't scare her as much as it should have. It made her feel safe. In a world full of monsters like Julian and the Russians, she was married to the biggest monster of them all. And he was on her side. At sunset, Du-hyun came to find her. He was dressed for battle. Black tactical pants, boots, a black turtleneck, and a heavy vest. He had a gun strapped to his thigh and a knife on his chest. He looked terrifying. He looked handsome. It's time, he said. Amara stood up. She walked over to him. She placed her hands on his chest, feeling the hard ceramic plate of the vest under the fabric. You look ready, she said. I am, he said. Kim is staying here with 5 men. They will guard the house. If anything goes wrong, if we don't check in by 1:00 a.m., Kim will take you to a safe house in Canada. Do not argue with him. I won't, she said. Julian is coming with us, Du-hyun said. We need him as bait. Good riddance, Amara whispered. Du-hyun leaned down. He kissed her. It wasn't a soft kiss like the morning. It was hard, possessive. It tasted like goodbye, even though neither of them said the word. He pulled back, his eyes searching hers. I will see you in a few hours. You better, she said. He turned and walked away. He didn't look back. He couldn't. Amara watched from the window as the convoy of black SUVs rolled down the driveway and disappeared into the dark woods. She was alone. Well, not alone. Kim was in the kitchen, checking a monitor. 4 other guards were patrolling the grounds. Amara went to the kitchen. Kim, Mrs. Beek, Kim said, standing up straight. Can I get you anything? A drink, she said. Something strong. Kim nodded. He went to the liquor cabinet and poured 2 fingers of whiskey into a glass. He handed it to her. He will be fine, Kim said, noticing her shaking hands. The boss, he is very good at this. I know, Amara said. She took a sip. The whiskey burned her throat, but it grounded her. Kim, can I ask you something? Of course. Why did he stay? She asked. For 2 years. Why did he stay in the marriage if he was so miserable? Why didn't he just leave? Kim hesitated. He looked uncomfortable. It is not my place. Please, Amara said. I need to know. Kim sighed. He leaned against the counter. Because of the promise. What promise? The day you married him, Kim said. He told his father. He told everyone. That you were the only thing in this world that made him feel human. He said that without you, he was just a machine. When the tragedy happened, he thought he had broken you. He stayed because he thought protecting you from himself was the only way to love you. Amara felt tears prick her eyes. He was wrong. Yes, Kim agreed. He is a genius at business, Mrs. Beek, but at feelings he is a fool. Amara laughed, a wet, sad sound. Yeah, he is. The quarry, 11:45 p.m. The air was silent. The moon was hidden behind thick clouds. The quarry was a deep gash in the earth, filled with shadows. In the center of the pit, a single car sat with its headlights on. Julian Vance stood in front of it. His hands were tied behind his back, but from a distance, it just looked like he was waiting. Du-hyun lay on his stomach on the ridge, looking through the scope of a sniper rifle. The cold ground pressed against his chest. He was perfectly still. Anything, he whispered into his comms. Movement at the South Road, a voice crackled in his ear. 3 vehicles, heavy trucks. Hold fire, Du-hyun ordered. Let them enter the bowl. He watched as the trucks rumbled into the quarry. They were big military-style transport trucks. They stopped near Julian's car. Doors opened. Men jumped out, lots of men, at least 20. They were carrying assault rifles. They didn't look like street thugs. They moved in formation, soldiers. A man stepped out of the lead truck. He was huge. He wore a long leather coat. He had a shaved head and a beard, the Red Ghost. Du Hyun recognized him from the files, Alexei Volkov. Volkov walked up to Julian. He said something Du Hyun couldn't hear. Julian nodded frantically, gesturing toward the ridges. Du Hyun's finger tightened on the trigger. "Wait for it," he whispered to himself. Volkov looked around. He scanned the darkness. He seemed to sense something was wrong. He grabbed Julian by the neck and dragged him close, using him as a shield. "Smart," Du Hyun muttered. "Boss," a voice said in his ear. "They are setting up a mortar east side." A mortar. They brought heavy artillery. If they started shelling the ridges, Du Hyun's men would be turned into ground meat. "Take out the mortar team," Du Hyun ordered. "Now!" Crack, a single shot rang out from the west ridge. The man setting up the mortar tube collapsed. The silence shattered. "Ambush!" Volkov roared. He threw Julian to the ground and pulled a massive handgun. The quarry erupted. Muzzle flashes lit up the night like a strobe light. Bullets chipped the rocks around Du Hyun's head. He didn't flinch. He adjusted his aim. He wasn't aiming for Volkov. He couldn't get a clean shot with Julian in the way. He aimed for the trucks, specifically the gas tanks. Bang! The first truck exploded in a fireball that turned the night into day. The force of the blast knocked men off their feet. "Engage!" Du Hyun shouted. His men on the ridges opened fire. A wall of lead rained down on the Russians. It was a massacre. The Russians were trapped in the open, with fire behind them and bullets coming from above. But they were professionals. They didn't run. They took cover behind the remaining trucks and returned fire. Du Hyun saw Volkov dragging Julian toward the back of the quarry, toward a pile of boulders. "He's running," Du Hyun growled. He abandoned the rifle and pulled his handgun. "Cover me, I'm going down." "Boss, no," his second-in-command shouted over the comms. "It's a kill zone." "Cover me," Du Hyun repeated. He slid down the steep gravel slope. Stones tumbled around him. Bullets whizzed past his ears like angry hornets. He hit the bottom of the quarry and sprinted. He moved from cover to cover. A burning tire, a rusted excavator. He saw a Russian soldier pop up, aiming at him. Du Hyun fired twice while running. The soldier dropped. Du Hyun reached the boulders. He pressed his back against the cold stone. He could hear breathing on the other side, heavy, ragged breathing. "Beak!" Volkov's voice boomed. He spoke English with a thick accent. "I know you are there. Come out. Let us finish this like men." "Let the hostage go," Du Hyun shouted back. "Hostage?" Volkov laughed. "This piece of garbage, you can have him." There was a scuffle, a scream, and then Julian Vance was thrown out from behind the rocks. He landed at Du Hyun's feet. Julian was clutching his stomach. Blood was pouring between his fingers. Volkov had gutted him. "Help!" Julian gasped. "Help me!" Du Hyun looked at him. There was no pity in his eyes. Julian had brought this on himself. "Beak!" Volkov shouted. He stepped out. He was holding an assault rifle. He didn't hesitate. He opened fire. Du Hyun dove to the left. The bullets chewed up the ground where he had been standing. Julian's body jerked as stray rounds hit him, ending his miserable life. Du Hyun rolled and came up on one knee. He fired his handgun. Bang, 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 3 shots. 2 hit Volkov in the chest armor. The third hit him in the shoulder. Volkov grunted and stumbled back, dropping his rifle, but he didn't fall. He was wearing heavy body armor. He roared and pulled a knife. A huge combat knife. He charged. Du Hyun didn't have time to aim again. Volkov was on him. They crashed into the dirt. The gun flew out of Du Hyun's hand. Volkov was on top of him, heavy as a bear. The knife came down. Du Hyun caught Volkov's wrist, his muscles strained. The tip of the blade was inches from his eye. "You die today, little man," Volkov spat, his saliva hitting Du Hyun's face. Du Hyun grit his teeth. He pushed back, but Volkov was stronger. Gravity was on the Russians' side. Du Hyun needed an edge. He needed to be dirty. He remembered Amara. You attack a man with a gun. Du Hyun didn't try to overpower Volkov's arm. Instead, he bucked his hips, throwing Volkov off balance for a split second. Then he headbutted him. Hard. Du Hyun's forehead smashed into Volkov's nose. Bone crunched. Volkov roared in pain and reared back. The pressure on the knife lessened. Du Hyun used the opening. He reached for the knife on his own chest vest. He pulled it out. He plunged it into the gap in Volkov's armor right under the armpit. Volkov froze. His eyes went wide. He looked down at the handle sticking out of his side. "For my wife," Du Hyun whispered. He twisted the blade. Volkov collapsed sideways. He gasped once, twice, and then lay still. Du Hyun pushed the heavy body off him. He lay on his back, staring up at the smoky sky. His chest was heaving. His head was throbbing. He was covered in dirt and blood, but he was alive. The shooting had stopped. "Boss!" a voice called out. "Boss, clear!" Du Hyun sat up. He looked around. The quarry was quiet. The burning trucks crackled. Dead bodies littered the ground. His men were coming down the slopes. I'm here, Du Hyan croaked. He stood up, swaying slightly. He looked at Julian's body, then at Volkov's. It is done, he said. The estate. 2:00 a.m. Amara was pacing in the living room. It was past the deadline. 1:00 a.m. had come and gone. Kim had tried to make her leave, but she had refused. She had locked herself in the bathroom with a kitchen knife until he agreed to wait another hour. She heard tires on the gravel. She ran to the window. The SUVs were back, but there were fewer of them, and one of them had a shattered windshield. Amara's heart stopped. She ran to the front door. She threw it open before the cars even stopped. Du Hyan got out of the second car. He was limping. His face was swollen. He was covered in filth, but he was walking. Du Hyan! She ran down the steps. She didn't care about the mud. She didn't care about the armed men watching. She collided with him. He groaned in pain but wrapped his arms around her immediately. I told you, he rasped into her ear. I come back. Amara buried her face in his dirty vest. She was sobbing. You're late, you jerk, you're late. Traffic, he joked weakly. She pulled back and looked at him. She touched the bruise forming on his forehead. Are you okay? Is it over? Volkov is dead, Du Hyan said. Julian is dead, it is over. He leaned heavily on her. I need a shower and a drink in that order. I'll help you, she said. She helped him inside. The men began to unload the gear, their faces tired but relieved. Upstairs in the master bathroom, Du Hyan peeled off the vest and the ruined clothes. His body was a map of bruises. Amara turned on the shower. Steam filled the room. He stepped in. The water turned pink as it washed away the blood. Amara stripped off her clothes and joined him. She didn't say a word. She just took the sponge and gently washed his back. She washed his arms. She washed the blood from his hair. He leaned his forehead against the tile wall, letting the hot water beat down on his neck. I killed a man with my bare hands tonight, he said quietly. The water muffled his voice. I looked into his eyes and I enjoyed it. He turned to face her. His eyes were haunted. Does that scare you? Amara reached up. She cupped his face. She ran her thumb over his split lip. You did it to come home to me, she said. Yes. Then it doesn't scare me, she said. I love you, Du Hyan, the monster and the man. I love all of it. Du Hyan let out a sound that was half sob, half sigh. He pulled her into a kiss that was desperate and raw. 3 months later, the gala was in full swing. The same hotel. The same ballroom where Julian had proposed. But this time, everything was different. Du Hyan stood in the center of the room. He was wearing a new tuxedo. He looked impeccable, dangerous, powerful. But he wasn't standing in the shadows. He was standing with his arm around his wife. Amara wore a dress of deep crimson red. It was bold. It was daring. She wore diamonds around her neck, a gift from Du Hyan. She didn't look frail. She looked radiant. She looked like a queen. People whispered as they walked by. They knew the rumors. They knew about the accident that killed Julian Vance. They knew that the Beek family had crushed a Russian incursion, but nobody dared to say a word. They are staring, Du Hyan murmured in her ear. Let them stare, Amara said, lifting her chin. They've never seen a happy marriage before. Du Hyan laughed. It was a genuine sound. Mr. Beek, a nervous man approached them, a competitor. I just wanted to say it's good to see you back. And your wife, she looks lovely. She does, Du Hyan agreed, tightening his grip on her waist. But she is not lovely, she is dangerous. You would do well to remember that. The man paled and scurried away. Amara smirked. You enjoy that too much. I enjoy protecting what is mine, he said. He turned her to face him. The music was slow. Dance with me, he said. I thought you didn't dance, she said. I didn't, he said. But I learned a lot of new things this year. He swept her onto the dance floor. They moved together perfectly, no space between them. Amara rested her head on his shoulder. She closed her eyes. She thought about the empty penthouse, the cold guest room, the silence. It felt like a lifetime ago. Du Hyan, yes, I'm pregnant. Du Hyan stopped dancing. Right in the middle of the floor, he pulled back to look at her. His eyes were wide, shocked. What? I found out this morning, she smiled. Tears glittered in her eyes. We're going to have a baby. For a second, Amara was afraid that the grief would come back, afraid he would shut down again. But then, slowly, a smile broke across his face. It was the brightest thing she had ever seen. He didn't care about the crowd. He didn't care about his reputation. He picked her up and spun her around. He laughed loud and clear. A baby, he shouted. We are having a baby. The crowd watched, stunned. The stoic, terrifying Korean mob boss was spinning his wife around like a teenager in love. Amara laughed with him, holding on tight. The darkness was still there, outside the walls. The world was still dangerous. But in here, in his arms, there was only light. Du Hyan set her down and kissed her. I will protect you, he vowed against her lips. I will protect both of you with my life. I know, Amara said, and she did. The penthouse was silent, but it wasn't the cold silence of the past. It was a warm, expectant silence. Amara stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling mirror in the master bedroom. She turned to the side, resting a hand on her stomach. 7 months. She was huge. The baby, a boy they had found out, was active. He kicked constantly, especially when Du Hyun was nearby, as if he could sense his father's energy. The door opened, and Du Hyun walked in. He stopped dead in his tracks, his eyes scanning the room for threats before landing on her. He did this every time he entered a room now. The paranoia hadn't left him, it had just shifted focus. Before, he was protecting his business. Now he was protecting his legacy. "You are standing," he said, frowning. "The doctor said you need rest." Amara rolled her eyes. "The doctor said I shouldn't run a marathon, Du Hyun. She didn't say I had to be bedridden. My back hurts. Standing helps." Du Hyun walked over to her. He was wearing a suit, but the tie was already gone and the top button was undone. He looked tired. The power vacuum left by Volkov's death had been messy. Everyone wanted a piece of the territory, and Du Hyun had spent the last 4 months stomping out fires. He knelt in front of her. He placed his large, rough hands on her belly. Immediately, the baby kicked. Thump. Du Hyun's face softened. The hard lines around his eyes smoothed out. "He is awake," he whispered. "He's always awake," Amara complained, running her fingers through Du Hyun's hair. "He takes after you. He doesn't sleep." Du Hyun kissed her stomach through the silk of her robe. "He knows he has to be strong. He knows who his father is." "That's what I'm afraid of," Amara said, half joking. Du Hyun stood up and kissed her lips. "I have to go back to the office. There is a situation at the docks." Amara stiffened. "A situation dangerous." "No," Du Hyun lied. He did it smoothly, but Amara knew him too well now. She saw the slight twitch in his jaw. "Du Hyun," she warned. "It is just a negotiation," he insisted. "But I will be late. I will send extra guards for the house." "We already have 6 guards, Du Hyun. I can't even go to the bathroom without tripping over a man in a black suit." "It is necessary," he said firmly. "Until the heir is born, you are the most valuable target in the city. I will not take risks." He kissed her again, harder this time, as if trying to memorize the taste of her. Then he turned and left. Amara watched him go. She felt a knot of unease in her chest. It wasn't just the hormones. Something was wrong. The air in the city felt heavy lately. Static electricity before a storm. She walked to the window and looked down at the street. A black car was parked across from their building. It had been there yesterday, too. She squinted. The windows were tinted. "You are being paranoid," she told herself. "You are turning into him." But as she watched, the car started up and pulled away, disappearing into traffic. Pause. Du Hyun is in protective overdrive mode, and Amara is sensing danger. But here is the question. Is Du Hyun right to lock her up like a princess in a tower? Or is his paranoia going to drive a wedge between them again? If you were Amara, would you A. Stay home and trust him, B. Investigate that black car yourself? Let me know in the comments. And hey, we are in the final stretch of this saga. If you haven't subscribed to Timeless K-Love yet, you are about to miss the most intense birth scene in history. Hit that button, join the family. Du Hyun didn't go to the office. He went to a warehouse in Queens. It was an old meat-packing plant that his family had owned for decades. It was cold, smelling of bleach and old blood. Kim was waiting for him. "Where is he?" Du Hyun asked, stripping off his suit jacket and rolling up his sleeves. "In the freezer," Kim said. "We didn't turn it on, obviously, but it's soundproof." Du Hyun nodded and pushed open the heavy metal door. Inside, a man was tied to a chair. He wasn't Russian, he was local. A street soldier from one of the smaller gangs that used to pay tribute to Du Hyun. The man looked up, his face already bruised. "Mr. Beek," he stammered. "This is a mistake. I didn't do anything." Du Hyun walked over to a table where a row of tools was laid out. He didn't pick up a hammer or a knife. He picked up a photo. It was a photo of Amara, taken yesterday. She was walking on the balcony of their penthouse. "You didn't do anything," Du Hyun asked quietly. "Then why did my men find this in your car?" The man went pale. I was just paid to watch, just to watch, I swear." "Paid by who?" Du Hyun turned to face him. The look in his eyes was terrifying. It wasn't rage, it was empty. "Who paid you to stalk my pregnant wife?" "I don't know his name," the man cried. "He contacted me online, dark web stuff, he paid in crypto, he just said he wanted her schedule." "Her schedule," Du Hyun repeated. He walked closer. "Why?" he said. He said he wanted to send a gift. Du Hyun slammed his fist into the man's face. The chair rattled, the man spat blood. "What gift?" Du Hyun roared. "I don't know, I swear, please, Mr. Beek, I have a family." "You should have thought about them before you looked at mine," Du Hyun said coldly. He turned to Kim. "Get the tech guys, trace the crypto, find who hired him, and get rid of this trash." Do you want him dead? Kim asked. No, Du Hyun said, wiping his knuckles on a rag. Break his legs, both of them, and dump him in front of his boss's club. Let them know that looking at my wife comes with a price. Du Hyun walked out of the freezer. He felt sick. He had killed Volkov. He had killed Julian. He thought he had cut the head off the snake, but it seemed the snake had grown 2 more heads. A gift. The word echoed in his mind. His phone buzzed. It was Amara. Can you bring ice cream when you come home? The baby demands strawberry. Du Hyun stared at the screen. He forced a smile, though no one was there to see it. He typed back, yes, strawberry, I will be home soon. He got in his car, but he didn't go to the store. He called the head of his private security detail. Double the perimeter, he ordered. And check all packages. Nothing comes into the building without being scanned. Not even a letter. A week later, Amara was in the nursery. It was a beautiful room, painted in soft grays and blues. The crib was made of dark walnut wood, hand-carved. She was folding tiny onesies. They looked impossibly small. How can a person fit in this? She mumbled to herself. The intercom on the wall buzzed. Mrs. Beek. It was the concierge from the lobby. Yes, there is a package for you. It was left at the front desk. No return address. Amara frowned. Du Hyun had banned all deliveries. Send it away, she said. My husband said, I know, ma'am, but the note. It says it's from your grandmother, from Louisiana. Amara paused. Her grandmother, she hadn't seen her in years, but she had sent an announcement about the baby. Okay, Amara said. Have security scan it. If it's clean, bring it up. 10 minutes later, Kim knocked on the door. He was holding a box. It was wrapped in brown paper. We x-rayed it, Kim said, looking suspicious. It's just fabric, a blanket maybe. Amara took the box. Thanks, Kim. He didn't leave. He stood by the door, hand on his earpiece. Amara sat on the rocking chair and opened the box. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper, was a quilt. She smiled. It was a patchwork quilt made of old scraps of denim and flannel. It smelled like lavender. It was definitely something her grandmother would make. She unfolded it, and then she screamed. It wasn't a quilt. It was a baby blanket. White. But in the center, painted in crude, red letters that looked like blood, was a message. A life for a life. And wrapped inside the blanket was a dead rat. Amara threw the blanket across the room. She scrambled backward, knocking over the lamp. Kim! Kim was already moving. He kicked the blanket away, shielding Amara with his body. Don't touch it, don't breathe. Du Hyun burst into the room a second later. He must have been just down the hall. He had a gun in his hand. Amara. He saw her huddled in the corner, shaking. He saw the blanket. He saw the rat. His face turned a color Amara had never seen. It wasn't red. It was gray, ash gray. He didn't go to the blanket. He went to her. He holstered the gun and scooped her up into his arms. She was heavy, but he lifted her like she was a feather. Out, he barked at Kim. Seal the room. Get the hazmat team. I want that tested for poison, anthrax, everything. He carried Amara into their bedroom and kicked the door shut. He set her on the bed and immediately started checking her hands, her face. Did you touch it? Did you smell anything? It smelled like lavender, Amara sobbed. I thought it was from my grandma. SHH, Du Hyun soothed, pulling her against his chest. It's okay, you're okay. But she wasn't okay. She could feel his heart hammering against her ear. It was beating so fast it scared her. Who? She whispered. Who is doing this? I don't know, Du Hyun admitted, and the admission terrified him. But I will burn this city to the ground until I find them. The next 24 hours were a nightmare. Du Hyun locked down the penthouse. He had men stationed in the hallway, in the lobby, on the roof. He even had a drone circling the building. The test results on the blanket came back clean. No poison, just red paint and a dead rat. It was psychological warfare. Amara lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. She couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the words, a life for a life. Du Hyun sat in the chair by the window, watching the city. He hadn't slept either. He was drinking whiskey straight from the bottle. It's Volkov's brother, Du Hyun said suddenly into the silence. Amara turned her head. What? I got a call from a contact in Moscow. Alexei Volkov had a younger brother, Dmitri. He was in prison when we killed Alexei. He got out last week. So he wants revenge, Amara said. He wants more than revenge, Du Hyun said. The Volkovs, they believe in blood debts. I took his brother. He wants my son. Amara's hand flew to her stomach. He can't have him. No, Du Hyun said. He stood up and walked to the bed. He looked exhausted, but his eyes were burning with that familiar dark fire. He thinks he can terrorize us. He thinks sending a dead rat will make me weak, make me careless. What are we going to do? Amara asked. We are going to finish it, Du Hyun said. Tonight. Tonight, Amara sat up. Du Hyun, you can't leave me. I am not leaving you, he said. We are leaving together. Where? To the one place he won't expect, the one place I swore I would never take you back to. Where? The warehouse, Du Hyun said, where Julian died. Why? Because Dmitri is looking for a fortress, Du Haiyan explained. He is watching this building. He knows the security is tight. He is waiting for me to move you to a safe house so he can hit the convoy. So we are going to give him what he wants, a convoy. We're the bait, Amara realized. No, Du Haiyan said. The convoy is the bait, empty cars. Kim will lead them on a chase through the city. While they are busy chasing ghosts, we will be in the last place they look. And what happens at the warehouse? We wait, Du Haiyan said. Dmitri is arrogant. When he realizes the convoy is empty, he will track my phone. I will leave it on. I will lead him right to us. And then I will kill him, Du Haiyan said simply. And this time there will be no brothers left. The plan was madness. Amara knew it. A pregnant woman and a mob boss hiding in an abandoned warehouse waiting for a Russian hit squad. But she also knew there was no other choice. They couldn't live in fear forever. They couldn't raise a baby in a prison. At 2:00 a.m., the convoy of SUVs roared out of the garage. Sirens wailed. It looked like a presidential escape. 5 minutes later, Du Haiyan and Amara left through the service entrance in a beat-up delivery van. Du Haiyan was driving. Amara was in the passenger seat wearing a hoodie and sweatpants. She had a gun in her lap. Du Haiyan had insisted. They drove in silence to the industrial district. The warehouse loomed in the dark, a skeleton of steel and concrete. They parked the van inside and killed the lights. Upstairs, Du Haiyan said. The office has bulletproof glass. You stay there. They climbed the stairs. Amara was breathless by the time they reached the top. Her back was killing her. The office was dusty, overlooking the main floor. Du Haiyan set up a chair for her. He checked her gun. Safety off, he reminded her. Point and squeeze 2 hands. I know, she said. He kissed her forehead. I will be downstairs when he comes. Close your eyes. Du Haiyan went down to the main floor. He sat on a crate in the middle of the empty space. He took out his phone and placed it on the crate next to him. The screen glowed bright in the darkness. He waited. Amara watched him from the window. He looked so lonely down there. A single man against the dark. 10 minutes passed. 20. Then headlights swept across the walls. A car pulled slowly into the warehouse entrance. Then another. Dmitri had come. Du Haiyan didn't move. He sat on the crate, his hands resting on his knees. The car doors opened. 6 men stepped out. They were heavily armed. One of them walked forward. He was young, younger than Du Haiyan. He had the same shaved head as Volkov, but his eyes were wilder, unstable. Beak Du Haiyan, Dmitri called out, his voice echoed. You make it easy for me. I was tired of waiting, Du Haiyan said calmly. He didn't stand up. Where is the wife? Dmitri asked, looking around. And the little bastard? Safe, Du Haiyan said. Far away from you, Dmitri laughed. You think so? We have men everywhere. We will find them. No, Du Haiyan said. He finally stood up. You won't. And why is that? Dmitri sneered, raising his rifle. Because, Du Haiyan said, you stepped into my house. He pressed a button on a small remote in his hand. Click. The warehouse doors behind the Russians slammed shut. Heavy steel shutters dropped from the ceiling, sealing the exits. Dmitri spun around. What is this? I told you, Du Haiyan said. This is where Julian died. It is a graveyard. From the shadows of the mezzanine, from behind the crates, from the catwalks, Du Haiyan's men emerged. They had been there the whole time. The convoy wasn't just a distraction for Dmitri. It was a distraction for Dmitri's scouts. Du Haiyan had moved his kill team here hours ago. Dmitri realized too late that he was surrounded. Kill him! Dmitri screamed, swinging his rifle toward Du Haiyan. But Du Haiyan was already moving. He dove behind a concrete pillar just as the air filled with bullets. The warehouse became a thunderbox. The noise was deafening. Amara flinched with every shot, pressing her hands over her ears. She saw Du Haiyan moving through the chaos like a ghost. He wasn't shooting wildly. He was precise. He flanked the Russians. Dmitri was pinned down behind his car. He was screaming orders, but his men were falling one by one. Du Haiyan reached the car. He didn't shoot. He grabbed Dmitri by the collar and dragged him out. Dmitri tried to stab him, just like his brother had. But Du Haiyan was ready. He caught Dmitri's arm and broke it with a sickening snap. He threw Dmitri to the ground. He put his boot on Dmitri's chest. The shooting stopped. The Russians were all down. Du Haiyan looked down at the young man. Your brother died like a warrior, Du Haiyan said. You die like a rat. He aimed his gun. Wait, Dmitri pleaded. I can pay, I have money. I don't want your money, Du Haiyan said. I want my son to sleep at night. Bang, it was over. Du Haiyan stood over the body for a moment. Then he turned and looked up at the office window. He nodded. Amara let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. She slumped back in the chair. Her water broke. The pain was sudden and sharp. Amara gasped, clutching her stomach. Du Haiyan, she screamed, though she knew he couldn't hear her through the glass, but he saw her. He saw her double over. He sprinted for the stairs. He took them two at a time. He burst into the office. Amara, it's time, she groaned. The baby, he's coming. Du-Hyun's eyes widened. Now here. Yes, here, she yelled. Unless you want me to hold him in until we get to the hospital. Du-Hyun looked around. A dusty office in a warehouse filled with dead bodies. It was the worst possible place. We have to go, he said. The van. He scooped her up again. He carried her down the stairs, shielding her eyes from the carnage on the floor. Clean this up, he barked at his men as he passed. Burn the cars, leave nothing. He put Amara in the van. He drove like a maniac. Amara was breathing through the contractions. You did good, she panted. Don't talk, Du-Hyun said, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Just breathe. He's dead, she asked. Really dead? Yes. Good. They reached the hospital in record time. Du-Hyun carried her into the ER, shouting for a doctor. The nurses rushed over. Sir, put her on the gurney. Du-Hyun didn't let go of her hand, not when they wheeled her into delivery. Not when the doctors told him to step back. He stood by her head, wiping the sweat from her forehead. He whispered to her in Korean, soft words, promises. You are strong, he said. You are the strongest woman I know. Shut up, she groaned. This hurts more than the gunshot. I know, I'm sorry. 3 hours later, the crying started, a loud, angry wail that filled the room. The doctor held up a tiny, squirming baby. It's a boy, the doctor said. Du-Hyun stared. Felt tears running down his face. He didn't wipe them away. They cleaned the baby and handed him to Amara. She looked exhausted, her hair matted to her face, but she was smiling. Look at him, she whispered. Du-Hyun, look. Du-Hyun leaned in. The baby opened his eyes. They were dark, deep, just like his father's. Du-Hyun reached out a finger. The baby's tiny hand wrapped around it. The grip was surprisingly strong. Beak T.O., Du-Hyun said. His name is T.O. T.O., Amara tested the name. It's perfect. Du-Hyun kissed Amara, then he kissed his son's forehead. Welcome to the world, T.O., he whispered. I have made it safe for you. 1 year later, the penthouse balcony was bathed in sunlight. T.O. was waddling across the deck, chasing a robotic dog. He was fast. He fell down, scraped his knee, and looked up. He didn't cry. He looked at his knee, then stood back up and kept running. Du-Hyun watched him from the patio chair. He was reading a newspaper, a cup of coffee in his hand. He wore a casual sweater, no vest, no gun. Amara came out with a tray of fruit. He's going to break something, she said, watching T.O. crash into a potted plant. Let him, Du-Hyun said lazily. He needs to learn balance. Amara sat down next to him. She leaned her head on his shoulder. It's quiet, she said. It is, Du-Hyun agreed. There were no more black cars across the street, no more threats in the mail. The message Du-Hyun had sent that night in the warehouse had been received. The Beek family was off limits. Do you miss it? Amara asked. The adrenaline. Du-Hyun looked at his son, who was now laughing as the robot dog barked. No, Du-Hyun said. I found a better drug. Oh yeah, what's that? Peace, he said. He put his arm around her. And you, he added. Always you. Amara smiled. She closed her eyes, feeling the sun on her face. They had walked through fire to get here. They had bled. They had killed. But they had built a fortress not made of stone, but of love. And inside that fortress, they were finally truly free. The end.